happy Wednesday. We are kicking off another episode here on Mavens of Manufacturing, and it's Women's History Month. So, of course, I'm going to have more episodes this month featuring the amazing women in engineering and manufacturing. And I'm super excited to have our guest, Amanda Shank, here. She did something really exciting for the first time this year with her company. We're going to talk about that. Before we get started, though, I do want to let people who are tuning in to not forget about the comments section. So if you have any questions, comments, you need to vent about something, this is a great place for all of that. So be sure to use the comment section. I also want to give a shout out to Stephanie. She is the founder of This One's for the Gals. They do a bunch of STEM stuff for younger women, and they get more women involved in STEM. And I'm going to keep talking about that stuff regardless of things that are going on in our political atmosphere. So this is the place for the ladies, and I'm super excited to introduce you all to Amanda. Hello, Amanda. How are you doing?
I am great, Megan. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So can you just introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what company you work for, and how did you get involved with engineering and manufacturing? Because you're from the corrosion space, which
Yes.
I never thought about until I met you. So I'm super excited that you're here so we can talk about it and shine a light on it. So tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amanda Shank, I've been with One Mesa for about 10 years now. So that means I've been in the corrosion industry for that long. I have worn a lot of hats in my career. So started in communications and engagement. I've done a little bit of operations compliance and training administration to leading our marketing team. And so now I'm director of our people programs and communications. So I help drive kind of strategic initiatives that enhance our employee experience, training, and industry outreach. So that's why I'm here today. But One Mesa is a company. So we were founded about 40 plus years ago out of the back of our CEO's truck, doing corrosion work in the field for pipelines and storage tanks. So we protect the environment. We protect these assets from corrosion. So you think of your standard rust and all of those things that get gross and can corrode and can cause asset deterioration. That is what we do. And on a larger scale, it's protecting pipelines from explosions and tank farms and nuclear plants and all of the above. So we're kind of a niche industry, but if you know about us, if you don't know about us, you do now.
It's a much needed industry. So tell us what happens if we don't take care of corrosion things.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's thinking about it. Yeah, boom.
Boom. That's what happens. So yeah, I mean, our company mission is to protect people, property, and the environment. And so we do that day by day through our 4 operational brands, providing corrosion control solutions across the U.S. And we want to mitigate any potential corrosion issues that could happen for any assets.
So you said One Mesa is the umbrella of the 4 companies that you have. So do you just want to quickly go over those 4 companies and talk a little bit about each of those so that we can give them some highlights as well too?
Shed a little clarity. Absolutely. So we've got MESA Products. That is our manufacturing arm and materials arm. So we are headquartered in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with a manufacturing plant on site, building and creating these materials to help prevent corrosion. And then,
are you just strictly within Oklahoma building those materials, or are you building them all over the United States?
So our manufacturing plant is in Oklahoma, but we ship everywhere. So we can get it to you quickly. And we've got our shipping team is like stellar. So they'll tell you all of our stats, but we're like 99% on time. So
awesome. That's awesome.
We've also got MESA Services. So this is kind of a northern branch of corrosion control for us. They're headquartered out of Michigan, but they're doing the construction work to implement these materials and put these systems in place on long line pipelines, and doing heavy construction work
Okay.
for this industry.
Okay.
We've got another arm pretty similar to that, Hanson Drilling, based out of Washington on the Pacific Northwest. So again, it's just another way for us to reach our customers with a broader umbrella. And then located centrally, we have Bass Engineering out of Longview, Texas, and they specialize in that science of cathodic protection. That is the science behind corrosion control and how we can make all of the things work and not corrode.
That's very cool. So let's talk about then some different careers that are available in corrosion. Because again, this was not something that was top of mind for me. And when you were like, yeah, we work in the corrosion industry, and I'm like, wait, what's corroding?
What does that
Like, what are
mean?
we yeah, what are we doing? And how do people get a job in that sort of field? So what are some of the typical careers that someone can pursue within the corrosion industry?
Yeah, we're looking at a lot of different career paths. So
Mhm.
typically for like a field employee, they're doing the installation work. That's a
Oh,
construction type role or a technician type
yeah.
role. So you're getting dirty. You're out, you're traveling the US, installing
Like
systems on
those
pipelines.
giant cement pipes, is that one of the things they do?
We're doing
Or
a
is that
lot
different?
of like underground
Uh,
in system asset work, but like if you've driven by a giant tank farm, we'll provide protection for a lot of those as well.
very
Um,
cool.
yeah, so that's like a corrosion or a excuse me construction career path. We're looking for folks with CDLs to help us drive and haul equipment across the U.S. We've got folks on a safety team. So they're
Mhm.
helping make sure our people are safe and we're following regulations and compliance. We've got designers that are building these systems and making CAD drawings from, someone can draw something on a napkin and we're kind of thinking, okay, we'll bring that to life for you. And then our
Okay.
manufacturing plant. So they are building what we call anodes. That is the
Mhm.
piece that we want to corrode instead of your asset. So there's a lot of
Okay.
different opportunities within this world.
So one of the other things that I try to highlight too, and this has been a study done by Deloitte as well as Women in Manufacturing Organization, the Manufacturing Institute, that there's a lot of surveys out there and studies out there that say, women represent around 29 and 30%. It might be a couple of percentages lower or higher of all manufacturing and engineering. There is a stat out there where globally we only represent, I think it said 15 to 16% engineering on a global scale, which is crazy to me. Like that's really low in my opinion, but I'm very competitive. So it's like I always want to be 1% ahead.
Yeah,
Um, uh, but the thing is that's kind of misleading because it doesn't break it down by industry.
right.
And then when you take a look at ethnicity, the percentages get smaller. So, do you have any statistics on how many women represent the corrosion industry? And the reason why I'm just asking this question is because I want to set it up to what we're going to be talking about today. Do you have statistics for that or no?
From a broad scale, a lot of people, our national organization is called AMP,
Okay.
Association of Materials Protection and Performance, and a lot of their audience are technicians and engineers, and so that's where a lot of our kind of industry data comes from. But right
Oh,
now, we're sitting at about like 10 to 12% of women represented in a corrosion engineering role, and it's
okay.
even less for corrosion construction and corrosion installation.
Okay. And how is the overall workforce in general? Because I know there's a lot of industries within this sector that are struggling to find that talent. Are you feeling the same kind of struggles with
We
finding the
are
right talent?
all under pressure, looking for good folks. And so this is kind of how everything came to be with our MESA U training arm. We wanted to create an avenue and a path for folks to learn more about what we're doing in this industry and how you can have a career here.
Mhm.
Because if we go to a CDL school with commercial driver's license and we're saying, hey, don't forget about us, we're in the corrosion industry, no one knows what that is. So we
Yeah.
need to keep doing that and keep having that conversation.
Well, one of the things that you did first, and I messed it up. I thought it was your second year. So on some of the promo materials, I was like, "Oh, it's their second year," and I totally messed that up. So I'm sorry for misleading everybody. But you started your all women's cohort this year, and this is the perfect time to talk about it because March is Women History Month, and you're making history with that all women's cohort. So what was the inspiration of starting that cohort, and why did you want to make it all women and not combine men with women?
I think the core mission of our MESA U field training was truly to introduce more folks to this field. So we want to provide hands-on experience, talk about those career pathways to folks who don't know about us, because everyone is strapped and we're all looking for great people to work for them.
Mhm.
But women are significantly underrepresented in the corrosion and manufacturing industries. And so we saw this as an opportunity to kind of address that gap.
Mhm.
We also wanted to create a different environment where women could learn and network and gain confidence in what is primarily a male dominated industry. So I would say a classroom environment for an entire group of women is very different from a classroom environment of all men,
Mhm.
talking about how you do this work. And I think that's meaningful and it didn't exist. And so we wanted to help kind of put that out there in the world.
So is this kind of like an introduction course then to the corrosion? Okay, and then at some point during this course, do you invite men to come in to have conversations with the women? Because I know that like a ton of us have had male mentors within this space, and
Sure.
it's beneficial, right? It's good to have
Absolutely.
a variety of mentors and sponsors so that you can learn different skill sets from each individual, because I think that's the benefit of not just sticking with one mentor. So is there ever that connection made with maybe some of the men that are actually in the field and doing the jobs?
Yeah, we actually created a pretty unique environment. So for this first inaugural session, we had all female instructors, ranging from, someone who's maybe never led a training session before to engineers or sales folks that have been doing this for 20 plus years. And we wanted to create that environment. And I wanted to put signs up on the door that said no men allowed, but I got outvoted, but we do truly have really great in-house experts on the work that we do, and so we were leaning on those folks. And our primary instructors for MESA U are all men, and so we had a lot of help from them, just making sure our content was the same, we're covering all of the right topics, and then we did a lot of hands-on
Mhm.
with some like welding exercises. We did some pipeline survey exercises. We have an outdoor training field. And so we were bringing in all of the folks that could kind of help shed light on what this work looks like in the day to day, man or woman.
That's really cool. But no, and I think this brings up an interesting point. So I was at a conference in February for women in manufacturing, and it was the Men as Allies conference, and it was mostly men. So it was really refreshing to see all of the guys there that wanted to learn, okay, how can I be a better ally to women in male dominated industries? And it was an eye opener for me because there isn't just uncomfortableness on my side in certain situations when I have to enter a room that's mostly men and have to start a conversation. There is uncomfortableness on both sides. And some of the guys who are dads, they were like, I feel like a dad duty to protect the women on my team. So sometimes maybe I'm too parental for them and I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt that they can do things on their own. And like it comes across as me trying to micromanage them when really I just want them to be successful. So there was a lot of cool, interesting conversations during that. But when you're in a room full of people that look like you just have that camaraderie instantly. And I don't think that's being talked about enough. So I think having some of these opportunities where it is just women, it gives us the opportunity to ask maybe questions we would think, oh, this is a dumb question. I'm not going to ask it because I don't want to look like the dumb person in the room. It gives us that comfortableness to do it. So it's not something where we want to like push everybody out and get rid of them. It's just helping set up that comfortableness so we can have these conversations and then bring people together and then sort of get rid of the awkwardness at that point is how I look at it. So I think what you're doing is fantastic. Can you dive into a little bit more detail about the cohort? So how long was it? How long were the classes? What were some of the curriculum that you were focusing on? And were there any like hands-on exercises that really like shone through during this time?
Absolutely. So this is because this was our first time to do this for all women. It was still kind of a well-oiled machine because we've been hosting these classes. And it started internally. So we wanted to provide these development opportunities for our own employees. And then we realized, hey, this problem isn't just with our companies. Other folks need more people to get kind of, we call it a corrosion boot camp. So you come in, it's a 3-day course. And so we held this at our training facility in Longview, Texas. 3 days of a mix of in classroom content and then hands-on in our training yard outdoor. We had to watch the weather because things are getting wild here lately. But we did so we're covering things like intro to corrosion, intro to cathodic protection, which is that science piece behind the work that we do, and then some field measurements that folks and technicians do for some of those contractors. And so after, say, those 3 lessons, we're then going to take you outside and show you how to use these field measurement tools. We're going to walk through with some meters, and we're going to track a pipeline, and we're going to survey, and we're going to kind of put the content in action. And then we have a section on, materials. So talking about all the different materials needed to do this work and what that looks like. So it was a really interesting environment because we did have kind of a broad spectrum of students. We had folks who had been in the industry for a while, but maybe just with their blinders on doing their job and not really kind of seeing that 50,000 foot view of how they tie into the bigger mission of what we're doing here to help kind of protect the environment. And then, we had engineers who were just now transitioning to corrosion at their firms. And we had these material sales teams. They were like our in-house experts telling us about all of the things that you need to know and consider when choosing materials. So that is the base content for our MESA U class. And then in our women's cohort, we also added kind of some networking sessions. So
very cool.
We got to hear from one of our representatives from our national global organization, AMP, and talking about their initiatives with workforce development. And then we spent the majority of the week, each day, folks would hear from other cohorts and how they got their start in the career, what opportunities were given to them, talked about their mentor programs, who they leaned on, what questions to ask. Because again, I think you touched on this. This is that environment where you may not always want to ask, well, how do I find a mentor that's right for me? Or who should I be looking to ask these questions? And we had, One MESA is really lucky. Our field safety director is a female. And so we had her come in and talk about safety in doing this work and how sometimes it's hard to find PPE that fits a woman's body. And, those challenges that only this audience can face, it was really nice to have that environment to talk about everything openly.
There is a nonprofit that just started last year, and the acronym is actually awesome.
Oh, love it.
Which is really cool. So it's the Alliance of Women's Safety Apparel Manufacturers. So it's a group of PPE organizations and people that are really passionate about getting the right fit of clothing to women who are in fields like engineering, manufacturing, healthcare, safety, construction. Like, it's all of that. They just started it last year. So far, they have 631 followers on their LinkedIn page. Let me drop the link in the comment section in case you haven't heard of it. But they're looking for volunteers and supporters as well, too. And I'll tell you what, when you don't feel good, you don't work good and you're not as productive. And it's a safety thing, too. So I think the work that they're doing is really awesome. So maybe there's like a partnership there with you guys. Not trying to like sell their stuff or anything. So how many women did you have sign up for this year's cohort?
We had 27 students in this class, and it was our largest class to date out of all of our MESA U's. So
see, and that should be an eye opener as well, where like, hey, when people see women, they get comfortable and they get curious and they want to try it out. So that's really great to hear. And I'm super excited about it. Did you get any feedback from the students after the cohort? Like, what was the initial reaction? Was there any like critiques that they gave you for something to do differently next year? Like, how was that whole process?
Yeah, I think we did a survey while we were there. That's kind of our continuous improvement motto of just like how can we make this better. But we are looking at expanding the curriculum and offering some more hands-on. And we touched on pipeline coatings a little bit, but now they want to maybe see some of that as a field measurement option, and we're looking into doing that. Something that I think was really important is that we created this really supportive environment that doesn't always exist in a training class. And so an observation that our rep from AMP mentioned was she had never been in a training class where the audience applauded after every content piece. And it was just this clear, I know, I was like, oh my God, I love it. But it was this clear recognition of like, these people are trying something new and presenting and creating this content, and this audience gets that and wants them to know they're feeling supported. And so I think that is 100% a product of the environment that we created during the class.
Well, I've been involved in this sector since 2008. And one of the refreshing things that I'm seeing a shift in is before, like, women were highly competitive with each other, where there was like a pettiness and like just very like kind of mean to each other because they figured, oh, there's only one spot for us at the table. I'm going to take it and you're going to be left standing. But now I'm seeing this shift where other women are like, no, come with me. I'm going to introduce you to this person. I'm going to bring you into this group. I'm going to refer you to here. And there's definitely a shift of being more supportive. That's why I like WIM so much, the Women in Manufacturing group, because they have chapters all over the United States. They're gaining more chapters internationally. And it's just been massively beneficial to, like you mentioned, networking earlier. And I feel like some women, when they go to these massive trade shows or any sort of conference or event, and they're the only one getting sent from their team, it can be a little intimidating and they don't know how to connect or talk to people. So like this sort of stuff is really beneficial because it gives them that confidence to reach out to people and be the one to initiate a conversation. I definitely needed it a long time ago and didn't get it until later in my career, but I'm glad that that was one of the things you talked about was networking. We do have Candy coming on. She said it was an awesome training, highly recommend. Super glad to have that feedback here. If you want to put what your favorite thing was about it, Candy, feel free to do that, and we can talk about that as well. But for this cohort, why is it so important to have these initiatives for workforce development?
I think we've touched on it all this conversation about community and mentorship. I think that is the foundation of, a lasting impact on someone's career journey. And so continuing to build these environments where people feel comfortable to build their own network, because there's a lot to be said for putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I'm new to this. I don't know anything, but I'd like to, or I'd want to know more. That's a huge win in our eyes. We had a particular student whose father had been in the industry and just kind of kept saying, hey, this is a good company. Maybe you should check this out, see what they're doing, check out this training. She was green, had no exposure whatsoever to the work that we were doing, and probably was a little shy and held back the first couple of days. But by the end of the week, she's stepping right up, holding a pin brazing gun and doing an electrical connection hands-on exercise with the support of her cohort. And it was just something really neat to be a part of, to say, we helped create this environment, and now she can walk away with this whole new network of folks that can probably stay connected to her entire career path in this industry.
Yeah. So then what are your goals for next year? What are you looking forward to? Are you going to add anything? Like what does next year's plan look like?
I think my goal is to continue to increase outreach efforts. So a lot of the folks who knew about us were maybe in our small LinkedIn network, and we tried a bit of outreach, and I'd reached out to you and we'd had some conversations and you helped push our event. But really, exposure is how we're going to continue to build these new classes of folks that are eligible for hires and for jobs in this industry. And so that's what I'm looking at. I want to increase our efforts. We want to continue to recruit a diverse range of participants, because we don't just need one type of employee for the rest of our lives. We need to continue to have a great mix of folks for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But, continuing to partner with organizations at awesome sounds pretty awesome. So if we're hosting another all women's cohort, I think that's something that we want to lean into and say, what are, again, things that we can provide for this audience in particular. So
yeah. Are you doing any sort of like community outreach to non-manufacturing businesses, like maybe banks or something, or are you developing any sort of partnerships with other community colleges or high schools or anything like that? Because I know that's like there's a lot of conversation about, oh, let's attract them younger and get into elementary school, and there's been a lot of children's books written around engineering and manufacturing. Yeah, there's been a ton of them, which are really, my kids love every single one of them. So they're definitely a hit at my house. But are you doing things like that to maybe recruit more younger women into the cohort for next year?
Yeah, that is our kind of target audience. So we are looking at some of those tech schools, VOTech schools. There are like 2 corrosion college programs that I know of, and we hit those pretty hard, and we had some students from some of that. But I selfishly, I want to have an all women's cohort all the time. But the reality is we need everybody. And so while we're going to continue to host this event annually, we're still looking for those new to the industry students to fill our other cohorts. And so I think that's recent high school grads. We've looked at, going younger to career fairs and sharing about what this industry does and what it means to work in the corrosion world here, for environmental safety and what that looks like. So again, I think that's kind of our big picture plan for next year, is how can we continue to spread this message and get more folks to know about it.
Well, I'm going to connect you probably to Charlie Matthews. She's part of the Empowering Women in Industry organization, but she also has worked in the pump industry, which I didn't pay enough attention to. And she's like, yeah, people don't understand that if we don't have pumps for like certain wastewater facilities and all this stuff, she's like, our infrastructure would basically collapse without that stuff. And I'm like, you're right. It totally went. So it's amazing how people outside of the sector every day do things and they don't realize the things that are happening behind the scenes that help us get through our daily lives. So, Amanda, is there anything else that you want to share with us? Any updates from One MESA or MESA Products? Do you have any closing remarks for us? If you have an ask for our audience, what would your big ask be? Like, how can people help you out?
Yeah. So, how do you get involved, or how can you kind of support this initiative? So we had a couple of companies and partner organizations sponsor. And so we have a student sponsorship. If you want to sponsor to send a student to a MESA U course, we have that option available. And I think it's really it's great corporate marketing, but you're helping pay it forward, which is what we always want to keep doing.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I always tell people, if you want to do something that's quick and low-hanging fruit, sponsor your kids at the high school or elementary school. If there's a trade show within your niche, sponsor transportation to that trade show and get them to the trade show. And if you're exhibiting there, get them to your booth so that they can have a conversation with you. I brought a robotics team to IMTS, and they brought their portfolio, they brought their business cards, they had their pitch memorized, and they were going around to the booths and trying to look for sponsorship or donations for the robotics team. Yeah, so I am encouraging kids to come talk to you, so just be ready for that.
Hey, I want them to knock down my door.
Yeah. Well, Amanda,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm just like, we're kind of all over the place. We're continuing to host these courses year round. And so I love a theme. And so this past course was in February, and it happened to fall on Galentine's Day. And so I think we see an annual theme that could really work out well for this all women's cohort. But, we need to just keep filling those cohorts with folks and with students to take this leap and explore new opportunities. We've got a MESA U social media on LinkedIn, Facebook. We've got mesau.com, which is where we post all of our upcoming training. So we had a pretty busy Q1 this year for all of our training. So we're building the rest of the calendar for the year. So we'll have registration forms there online to sign up. But yeah, help us spread the word. If you are listening to this for the first time and you're like, well, this sounds like a cool thing, it is. And then tell everyone else how cool it is.
Yeah. Well, Amanda, how can people get in touch with you or connect with you if they have any questions or they want to participate or partner with you? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, we've got a contact form on our mesau.com. Fill that out. Let us know you heard this podcast, you're interested in getting involved. We'll follow up. Follow me on LinkedIn, Amanda Shank. Reach out that way. Send me a DM. But we're always looking for ways to expand this, because we recognize we're not the only ones needing to do this or have this issue of finding great folks that want to work for you and want to work in your specific industry. So we want to help kind of spread that message.
I think that's going to be one of the trends too that we're seeing a lot more of, is that companies are going to get more involved in the training proponent of what they need, because even with like current generations within the sector, they have to do a lot of upskilling with just the advancements in technology. And the
Sure.
other thing too is like construction alone is starting to automate some of its processes. So you're going to need someone in the field to know how to run that automation or maintain it if something goes wrong, code it, operate it. There's a lot
Yeah.
of newer opportunities coming in because of the advancements, and because corrosion is kind of similar in some regard to that construction. I can see that happening within that industry too, where you start automating some of those processes. So it's an exciting time to be in the sector and be part of it. Amanda, it was great speaking with you. To anyone tuning in, I will be having a summary article next week come out in case you missed this episode, the live version of it. Don't worry, it's always going to be replayed on YouTube. You can catch that and some other amazing stories. This is Women in History Month, so please celebrate the women around you, pull them into the conversation, get them excited about the opportunities we have in areas like corrosion, because as Amanda mentioned, we need help everywhere and we need to pull in as many people as possible. And women are one of those groups that we can pull in more from and get some really amazing results. So stay tuned. We do have an outro video with MESA with some screenshots and some pictures from the event, or is it from
This is from
every?
our most recent session. So from our all women's
Awesome.
cohort, this is what it looked like to be a student that week.
Awesome. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget to subscribe to Mavens of Manufacturing. There's a lot of women out there doing some really cool, interesting things. And we have over 190 interviews with women in the space. So be sure to check those out. I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, and we will see you on Friday for another episode of Mavens Manufacturing. Thanks, Amanda. Have a good one.
Thank you.